Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And the unboxing and making with Simon Says Stamps May 2025 card kit. As always, disclaimer / caveat, I do get the kits earlier than the average person. I'm on the Simon Says Stamp design team, so they send them to me a bit early. All the ins and outs of the kits, like subscription info, when things ship out, etc., that's always listed with the subscription info, which I link to below. Because the kit, you can subscribe, you're not locked in. You can skip kits, everything else. You can buy the kit just as a one-off. A lot of the products are available separately if you're not into the kits. Like, just there's a lot of options, which is always a good thing in my opinion. So I'll have links, and as always, my links are affiliate links, so that just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. And yeah, I'll unbox the kit, and then with the magic of video editing, we'll be able to splice together whatever I decide to make from it. Another thing I wanted to mention is the stamp set for this kit was designed by Tim Holtz, which is super fun. He did a previous one as well. And then there were a few other things that they released at the same time. There's a couple more stamp sets and stencils and whatnot. So I'll show those as well. Just because I will probably use those in like future videos, but I just thought while I have things sitting here, I'll show that. So let's flip the camera down just like so, and then let me zoom out a bit because I forgot to do that before we got started. There we go. Okay, so the other thing, this is available separately, and for subscribers it's a free gift that they're going to include with the kits, but it is separate. It's the dotted diamond 3D embossing folder. I like Simon's 3D embossing folders. This is a fun, kind of trippy pattern. It's fun. So yeah, there's that. And then here is the actual like kit. So we'll keep that separate. And then we'll get into the kit. Ooh, there we go, in a nutshell. Okay, yep. So this is the Beautiful and Curious, aka May 2025 card kit. It was a strawberry lemonade. Love candy. You always get me with the candy. So first off, the stamp set, which like it's kind of obvious, is it not? I don't know. It was obvious to me. As soon as I like saw a glimpse of it, I was like, that looks very like Tim Holtz. And then makes sense. So yeah, you got the stamp set. There is a coordinating wafer die set that is separate from this, like an add-on or separate purchase, and like I'll link to all of the things. But yeah, I like the little splatter image. This is a gorgeous set. I like these florals and butterflies, and then just kind of vintagey looking little bits and pieces. I love it. So that's the Beautiful and Curious stamp set. And then there's a pre-printed sentiment strip sheet that you can trim apart or die cut apart, etc. The Simon Says Stamp ones are toner ink printed, so you can technically foil with them. So it includes copper foil transfer. So these will work. You could stick that on top of this and run this through a mink machine, a heat laminator machine, a fuse machine, and foil these. You can also use these foil transfer sheets with adhesive, even just like glue sticks, things like that. You can add a bit of that and press it in, let it dry, and then peel off the foil. They're fun to play with. So you get that. This is one of Simon's. This is the metallic khaki envelope. This one's pretty. I need to get more of the khaki ones. They're just pretty. And I like the Simon envelopes because they're self-adhesive. Always a big win. But yeah, it's just a really pretty color. You know? I like it. So there's that. This is ivory cardstock, solar white cardstock, steel. Is this just a iridescent? I think this is a different color. I'm just looking on the. Oh, this is ice vellum. Yeah, I thought this was different. This is different than. I've done a bunch of videos using the Simon's Shimmer vellum, which came out whenever. I forget. It was months ago. And I love it. This is slightly different. Like the color is different. So this is what you get in the kit. This is ice vellum. And it's got like a... See how it's... I don't want to call it splotchy. But it's got just a neat finish to it. And then this is their Shimmer vellum, which is just kind of like solid shimmer. So they're different. This is more... a little bit more ivory, I guess I would say. I love vellum, but I really love shimmery vellum, so I'm kind of excited. So this is new, so I am going to also assume that you will be able to get like packs of this, which makes me happy. I like shimmery vellums. I use these mostly to die cut like butterflies, dragonflies, etc. from, because I like the shimmery vellum wings. So for me, that's like mostly what I'll probably use that for. Love. So you get that. You get some assorted pattern paper. This is from the Tim Holtz, what is the line? Wallflower 8x8 paper pack. So all of these pretty patterns. Ooh, I like that one. Because again, florals. I like the ephemera look to them. Aren't they pretty? So pretty. So you get those. Then there is this is steel cardstock, Simon's ivory cardstock, and then this is Nina Solar White 110 pound. These are all heavyweight cardstocks. Love. There's a little bit of AmyR's ivory twine. Just nice to add a little bits. Black soot archival ink. Archival ink is permanent. If you've never worked with archival ink, it's always nice to have like the smaller one to just test things out. But yeah, this is a permanent ink, and this is one of the types that you can technically stamp on other surfaces, not just cardstock. Like you can stamp on like glass and acetate and all sorts of things. I don't do that kind of stuff really, but this is a permanent ink, so you can also stamp images and watercolor with them. It will easily work for that. So yeah, always nice. You'll get an assortment of distressed crayons. It might not be the same colors because I think it's just assorted. I'm pretty sure it even says that they're just assorted colors. Diddly do. Yeah, 4 assorted distressed crayons. I'm gonna have to play with these. I have distressed crayons. I don't reach for them very often. And then I see other makers use them, and I'm always like, oh, that's so cool. It's so cool. So distressed crayons, always fun to play with. And yes, you can totally watercolor with them, hence them being in this kit. Because you also get a little watercolor water brush. So water brushes like this, when you first get them, the bristles might be really stiff like this. It's like it's very stiff. It's just got there's just like a coating on the bristles. Whether it's a water brush, and sometimes paint brushes are the same way and they seem just really stiff. You just need to break that apart. And then sometimes I'll just like flick it with my fingernail just to remove. It's like almost like a glue that they use to keep the bristles, shaped properly. So you just, and then with water brushes, you just gotta unscrew and then fill with water. So you get one of those to play with. Always fun. And then, yeah, that is the kit in a nutshell. Yep. So cardstock and pattern paper, a little bit of twine, shimmery vellum, shimmery envelope, pre-printed sentiment strips, foil, and the fabulous stamp set. I have no idea yet what I'm going to make. Okay. Oh, and before I even get that, so that's the kit. That's the kit. Now, separately from the kit was that embossing folder like I showed. And then here's the other items that they released kind of at the same time. So it all also coordinates nicely together. So we've got this. This is the Fly Today stamp set. Really pretty. Really pretty. And there will be coordinating wafer dies. As of like me filming this right now, I'm not 100% certain if they're available yet or if they're like on pre-order. I'm not sure. I don't have the coordinating wafer dies, but there will be coordinating wafer dies. If they're available when I get this all uploaded, I'll have a link to them in the description box below. So there's this one. This is a 4x6 set. And then this big one. This is the Monogram alphabet. Very vintage. You got some little icons, like floral icons. Love that. Really fun. So there's those. There's this delicate lattice stencil. Fabulous. And then this one I was kind of excited about. I'll hopefully be able to just pop in a graphic of what this looks like, because I got it in the package and I was like, oh, that's pretty, but didn't like really look at it because I don't have like the graphic. But once you see it like actually how it's supposed to be. But yeah, it's a layering stencil that does this great big rose. Like, you can kind of see it there. So pretty. So pretty. So, those items, like I said, are all like just separate. Not part of the kit, but I just thought I would show them because they're pretty. I do have plans. I have plans. So, back to the kit. No idea right this moment what I'm going to make, but thanks to the magic of technology, I'll just add that on, and in a few seconds you guys will see what I made. So I did figure out a couple things to make. And what I did was I took some Distress watercolor paper, and I'm going to put this in my Misty, and I'm going to take the floral image and a couple of the butterflies from this stamp set. I'm going to line them up. And I'm going to stamp them with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. That's my go-to black ink for watercoloring, etc. I could have used the archival that comes like in the kit. One thing to note, I forgot to mention this when I was talking about the archival ink. Archival ink will stain your stamps. Full stop. Like, it will fully stain. It'll clean off, but your stamps will be permanently stained. It's fine. It's okay. They'll still work amazing. It'll stain. Because when I was saying, like, archival is just, you can stamp on so many things with it. It is super duper permanent. And yeah, you don't notice it as much on red rubber stamps, but on photopolymer, even after you've cleaned them, like, they're immediately stained. So pretty much most good inks are going to stain. Good quality photopolymer, it stains. It happens. It's not the end of the world. I just mention this because people that are either newer or it's just that mentality that I've been fighting against for years of needing to keep everything pristine. Stained stamps are loved stamps. It's okay, And once they're stained, there's nothing you can do about it. And then it's less stress, in my opinion. So even the Nocturne ink, it stains a bit too. And I clear heat embossed mine. Didn't have to. I could have just stamped. I could have used the archival, or I could have just stamped the VersaFine Clair Nocturne and then watercolored. However, I clear heat embossed it, so I used Simon's clear embossing powder, melted it till it was smooth and melted. I did that because I'm using the Distress crayons, which are fairly pigmented, and the heat embossing will just resist anything I paint over it. Plus, it does give it a little bit of a shiny finish, which is kind of pretty too. And then with those crayons, I just scribbled them right onto my glasswork surface. Simple. And then I just pick them up with my water brush. Same thing. I used my little water brush. I didn't bother filling the one in the kit. I just didn't see a need to. I'll just set that one aside. This is my same little Tim Holtz Detailer water brush that I have been using for more years than I can remember. I forget how many years I've had this little thing. And yeah, you just pick up the crayons with the water brush and paint. That's it. It's simple. Yeah. If you are very unfamiliar with distress crayons, I highly, highly recommend searching. There's Tim Holtz YouTube channel, or you could go to the Tim Holtz website because I know they've got everything super organized. He's done many videos with so many ideas and techniques. I need to do that myself, specifically with the crayons, just to give a refresher, because it's amazing how many things you can do with these things. And like I said, of course I have them. I just don't use them very often. This was fun. I just painted with them. Specifically, the colors I got in my kit, like I said, they'll vary, but the ones I'm using that I got are peeled paint, fossilized amber, abandoned coral, and worn lipstick. So, just scribbled them on. This was very simple. I've mentioned this in other videos. When you have stamp sets or just stamped images that are very detailed, like these ones are very detailed, like that butterfly is just beautifully detailed. They feel overwhelming when especially if you're a coloring novice. However, I find the more detailed the stamps, the easier they are to color, because the detail like takes care of everything, if that makes sense, instead of just an outline, where then with an outline, all you see is the coloring, so you got to work a little harder sometimes to make it look extra nice, When it's super detailed, you can just slap the color on, go on about your day. No one can tell. So those are actually ones that I recommend, plus the detailed ones, and I'll stamp them on the inside of the card, and you'll see they're also beautiful to just stamp, and it's just there. So I trimmed down some of the pattern paper that came in the kit. And then this is the Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock that comes in the kit. I trimmed down a couple little panels. I applied the crayon, and you can technically smudge the distress crayons when you first apply them. You can smudge them with your fingers. However, the Classic Crest cardstock is pretty porous. You'll notice a difference if I was to scribble the crayons on like the pattern paper, because it has a little bit of a coating on it, or just papers like that have a bit of a coating. It's a lot easier to smudge the distress crayons with your fingers. So what I did instead, though, I just am using a baby wipe. And my baby wipe isn't like soaking wet. It had been sitting out for a bit. So it was, it wasn't dry. It was like barely damp. So you could just use a cloth, just barely damp. You don't want it dripping wet, only because if you're working on like just regular cardstock like this, if there's too much moisture, the cardstock will start to pill. Like it'll start to rip apart, and not fun. So just a barely damp cloth or just a barely damp baby wipe, just apply the crayon, and then I can smudge it out and move it around with that. It's just another way to create like a different look. You can do background with this. I was honestly just playing around. I wasn't really sure where I was going with this. But I'm like, this works. Why not? Let's emboss it too. So that's what we're going to do. So after I'd applied those two crayons and kind of blended them out with the baby wipe, I'm going to put these into that embossing folder. And yeah, I was right. My first impressions on this folder, I like it. It's one of these ones where I call like almost like a neutral pattern, So this can work with anything. It's not a specific scene or florals or anything. It's just a neutral pattern and fun. So I ran that through with those pieces of cardstock. And then I also trimmed down just some black cardstock from my stash. I took another scrap of black cardstock, and I'm going to white heat emboss one of the sentiments from the set. So I'm going to line up that cardstock in my MISTI, and then I'll use my anti-static powder tool. And the anti-static powder tool just prevents the embossing powder from clinging to where it doesn't belong, because you just want the embossing powder to cling to just the stamped image. So I stamped the sentiments with clear embossing ink and then tapped off the excess. Or not clear, I stamped them with clear embossing ink, tapped off and then covered them. My brain just stopped. Wow. Coated them with detail white embossing powder. Tapped off the excess. Melted with my heat tool. And then the sentiments and those images, I fussy cut all those because I don't have the coordinating die set. So fussy cutting isn't the end of the world. But man, I will never not pass up on a coordinating die set. I don't mind fussy cutting. I just would rather not, But since I didn't have the dies, I fussy cut and I survived, I survived, so it's all good. I'm still here. So anyway, I also pulled out another favorite, the Distresser tool. I've shown this in a bunch of videos. I like this. It's got like a little blade on the inside, and you can use it to rough up cardstock, cut thread, those sorts of things. So I used it to just rough up the edges of the pattern paper, and it even kind of curled up the edges. I enjoy this sort of thing. A lot of times it's difficult for me to get out of my head, and the not only like fighting against that need for perfection, which like I would say perfection is completely overrated, but I really like roughing up the edges of the cardstock, the whole splatter thing. Of course, we are going to add splatter. But lining things up like unevenly on purpose. Like, see, I'm putting everything on an angle. That for me, I have to like really think about that, because it's another one of those habits that happened over the years with card making. Like, everything needs to be lined up perfectly. The mats need to be a perfect parameter all around all the things. It's like, you know what? Sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't. Do things messy. Rip it. Rough it up a bit. Put things on crookedly on purpose. Have fun with it. Perfection is overrated, and it can ruin the creativity and the fun of it all. So there's my little soapbox moment. Anyway, splatter, of course. This time I used black soot distress paint, just because of all of my splatter favorites. When it comes to black, I now have two favorites. This was my main one for many, many years. And then the other one is that black gouache that I've been using in like practically every single video for months now, Both of them are great. Full stop. Because black can also be finicky at times. Other like craft paints and things can have too much filler in them, and then when you try to thin it out or whatever. But yeah, black soot distress paint, it's a win. Just like the archival ink and even the black gouache that I use, this stuff is permanent when dry. So as soon as I am done with it, I immediately wash off my brush. Do not let it dry in your brush. It will ruin your brush. I wipe off my palette, and then we're good to go. So after I added splatter to those backgrounds, I set them aside. My card bases, I just cut the ivory cardstock in half that comes in the kit. I cut it in half lengthwise, scored it at the top. So these are top folding A2 note cards from the ivory cardstock, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I stamped the same images I colored on the insides of the cards using Simon's Cheeky Positively Saturated ink. And this is what I was saying about like the detail on these. Like, they look beautiful just as is. If you really love like clean and simple, you could do like note cards with those images and just stamp them in different colors. You could do a whole rainbow, butterflies, add a sentiment, call it a day, It would be great. They're so pretty. So I stamped another sentiment from the set onto the insides of these cards with the Nocturne ink. And then I'm going to adhere my panels to the card bases, and I had roughed up curled up a couple of the corners of the black cardstock mat as well. Just keeping things a little uneven, keeping things a little messy. It's freeing. It is. And I say that because as someone who was very like type A, everything needed to match, everything needed to line up, everything needs to be perfect and clean and it is freeing. Play with the splatter. Rip some of your cardstock. Put things on crookedly. Just embrace, just start dabbling with mixed media. Even if it's not your thing, it's not necessarily my thing per se, but I really do enjoy it. It's fun. And you never know sometimes what'll happen. And it's just paper. It's just paper. So I adhered a bunch of my elements with more Big Mama foam tape. My just favorite. Gives everything a little bit of dimension without a whole lot of bulk. And then another thing I pulled out was the Cottontail embellishment mix from Simon. This came out in one of the releases like a couple months ago, and I told y'all that I was going to be obsessed with these. Kinda am. They just go with everything. So I pulled those out, and I put a few of these onto each of these cards. And then once I was kind of happy with where I placed them, I'm just going to pick them up with my little embellishment wand and adhere them down with the Craft Tacky Glue. And then once I get these adhered into place, just got to let the glue dry, and these cards will be complete. So I'm just going to kind of tuck in, some of these, the larger ones underneath, little elements here and there. And yeah, that was it. These were fun. I really enjoyed, mucking around with the distress crayons, a little bit of watercoloring, going direct to paper with them, using that baby wipe. Yeah. And we got texture, that little embossing folder, definite win. roughing up that pattern paper. Splatter. Splatter for the win. You all know I love me some splatter. It just works. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all of the things in the description box below the video, so you can just expand that to see everything. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!